At the Illinois Statehouse, conversations about banning gas hookups for new construction and calls for $140 million for violence intervention. Oh yeah, and Governor J.B. Pritzker donating a document Abraham Lincoln signed that everybody thinks really the beginning of the official actions in the Civil War. That's right, the Pritzkers owned that. And they donated it to the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum here in Springfield. But also conversations about what to do in the aftermath of a horrific case out of DuPage County. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out. Bishop on Air. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And join me each and every weekday morning as we traverse the landscape of Illinois news together. All right, so this case out of DuPage County. It's pretty incredible, actually. You had on Friday, and this is go to thecentersquare.com. On Friday, Julie Eglisball was murdered by her husband Winston in Villa Park. Winston was out on pretrial release. Illinois, if you recall, has no cash bail. And that means that certain offenses, people are let go. But he was released wearing an electronic monitoring device, which police were notified when he was close to his wife, but officers got there too late and found the couple dead, murder-suicide. Some legislators talking about how we need to change the Pretrial Fairness Act, and that's the law that ultimately allowed for the release of criminal defendants pre-trial. And somebody like State Representative Dan Calkins, he says that this pretrial release program has been a failure.
I mean, the damage that it's already done, the people that are out. You talk to the friends up in Chicago, and the folks that are on electronic monitoring, they get like 24 hours or 48 hours a week that they don't have to be tracked. And so there's some intersection in Chicago where these people all go when they're not being monitored to work things out. I mean, it's craziness. But this is a very flawed law. It barely passed. And now we're dealing with the aftermaths, and the aftermath is terrible. And this ordeal, this horrific crime, could have been prevented. This person should have been, restrained, and his wife should have been protected. And this is a real problem we have. And I don't know how we're going to fix it, because there doesn't seem to be any will in this building to actually do something that's going to reduce crime.
So you can see again that report at thecentersquare.com. My colleague Katrina Peterson talking with Dan Calkins yesterday at the state capitol. So again, horrific crime in DuPage, murder-suicide, somebody that was let out on pretrial release, going back, and they were arrested for domestic abuse, going back and murder-suicide with his wife. So a lot of shockwaves from this. So while my colleague Katrina Peterson was at the Capitol in Springfield, I bounced over to the ALPLM, the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Museum, where the governor was unveiling a donation that he and his wife, the First Lady MK, gave to the ALPLM about the Anaconda Plan. And it's a document that somehow the governor auctioned for, got. They did not disclose how much that document was, nor do they disclose how such a document ended up in private hands. I mean, the Presidential Records Act and all of that, and even back to the Civil War, I would imagine they had some protections, but either way. But I asked the governor about the Pretrial Fairness Act and what happened to DuPage County. Should that bring about some changes?
So the one that Bob Berlin has talked about recently, yeah. I think it's really important that states' attorneys and judges take very seriously the pretrial safety, the Pretrial Fairness Act, rather, is intended, in fact, to deal with exactly situations like this. It's being a state's attorney is a hard job. Being a judge is a hard job. These are new undertakings for many people. So I don't know that there needs to be any legislative change, but just in the way the cases are handled. we need to make sure domestic violence is something that gets taken very seriously when anybody is considered whether they should remain incarcerated or not.
So clearly, the governor says that there needs to be more focus from states' attorneys and courts to see somebody as a potential danger to others and to keep them behind bars. Quick refresher, the Pretrial Fairness Act ends cash bail statewide. However, there are offenses that are detainable offenses like murder charges. Some arguing that domestic abuse should be a detainable offense. We may hear more about that. I believe Senate Republicans are going to be discussing changes they'd like to see to the Pretrial Fairness Act on what can lead to people being held. But the Pretrial Fairness Act came about as a criminal justice provision saying that sometimes people can't afford bail whenever they're arrested for stealing a loaf of bread. Then they languish behind bars for what some may consider a petty crime, where the alleged murderer, who just happens to be a millionaire, is able to bail themselves out. So you could see some of the arguments from both sides there about it. But even after what happened to DuPage, even after what happened to that county sheriff who was struck by somebody who was on fentanyl, cocaine, and opioids of some kind. And that individual was arrested and let out pretrial. So there was questions about this, some high-profile cases. But while some say the Safety Act needs to change, Pretrial Fairness Act needs to change, others, State Representative Maura Hirschauer, saying that there needs to be Katrina's bill. And that's the measure that would require police to get a search warrant to search and confiscate firearms from an individual who has a protective order against them. And that measure has not advanced in either the House or the Senate. I asked the governor about Karina's bill, and does he think that is something needs to happen in the aftermath of this horrific domestic violence case? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I want to say, in general, I support the concept of the bill. I will say that if you listen to state police and actually all the other police departments too, it's quite difficult to remove a firearm from somebody, even if they have given up their FOID card. But in the instance where you need to go confiscate the firearm, literally you have to bring sometimes 4 officers to one situation in order to remove the weapon. And if somebody doesn't want to give it to you, it becomes quite complicated and maybe dangerous.
And think about what happened in North Carolina, where you had a felon illegal in possession of a firearm. Police go to confront, and you have slain law enforcement officers in that case. So interesting to hear the governor say he supports Karina's bill in concept, but he recognizes the danger that could put law enforcement in. So interesting to hear all that laid out as to the reaction of what happened in DuPage County. But you also had other things going on at the Illinois Statehouse yesterday, including a call for possibly banning natural gas hookups in Illinois. Go to thecentersquare.com, read this story from Kevin Bessler. You had Senate Bill 3935 from State Senator Selena Villanueva being featured during a news conference. As she said, we must reduce pollution in our buildings, and we must begin a managed transition away from dirty, expensive gas to more affordable, clean energy solutions. So that's led to some division. I believe Chicago's been battling with this idea as well. Other jurisdictions across the country have moved with this, but there's been lawsuits as well. And you've got the American Gas Association saying that natural gas has been one of the primary drivers for achieving environmental progress, and any ban on the foundation fuel will saddle consumers with significant costs for little environmental gain. One thing you can do also is go to MISO Energy and look at Illinois' energy chart and what that looks like. And you'll see that indeed there is a rather large section of natural gas. So just pull this up to show you. This is a MISO fuel mix chart. All right, you've got natural gas taking up 37%. Coal is 29%. Wind, 16%, hydro, 2%, nuclear, 15%. Natural gas is a significant amount of the actual energy being utilized in Illinois. So that's just one thing that happened, but you also had advocates wanting for more funds for crime, violence, intervention. And this is a group of community organizers. You had State Representative Justin Slaughter there, State Senator Robert Peters, LG Sims, Michael Flager was there. And they were rallying at the State House to support funding the Reimagine Public Safety Act, and they want $140 million to do that. So we're in an interesting time at the Illinois Statehouse where you've got budgets being talked about, but they're also passing all kinds of other laws that could see the finish line by the end of May. We'll track all of that for you. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to check us out tomorrow as well. Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Have yourselves a wonderful day. I got to get out of here.